let's back up and just clarify just a few things. So when you saw the male running from the store, and we're going all the way back to Rio Grande, okay, which seat did you see him get into?
That male ran out of the door of the gas station and got into the front passenger seat of that silver Impala.
Okay. And then after the vehicle left the store and you were following, did you receive any information about what may have occurred at that store?
Yeah.
Your Honor, may we approach? So let's go back. We were at the point wherein the vehicle left the store and you were following, and you were given some information to conduct a felony stop.
That's correct.
And what was that felony stop based on?
Based on incidents which had occurred at the gas station there on Rio Grande.
Okay. And once you got to the Valero station where the vehicle actually pulled over and the apprehension took place, you were given some more information regarding something being thrown out of the vehicle.
Yes, the helicopter was relaying information to the command post, and then by phone to myself and Agent White, that they had seen a heat source come from that vehicle, and it had definitely come from the front passenger seat of the silver Impala. That heat source is what I later went and checked in the parking lot and identified that there was a firearm on the ground. And later on, when I viewed the FLIR video, the forward-looking infrared, I was able to see that same heat source that they had seen come from the vehicle, and it came from the front passenger seat of the vehicle, and then through that front passenger window, and then it came to a rest, and it was a considerable heat source. And then I was able to see on the video later on where I and the other officer approached, and then we were looking at that heat source on the FLIR video, and then recounting that with what I had done. That was when I walked over and did locate the firearm on the ground.
Okay, you're talking about a FLIR video. What is that?
FLIR is a forward-looking infrared camera system, which is able to discern. They have different modes, and in that particular helicopter they did have a color camera as well as a FLIR camera, a forward-looking infrared. And what that shows is it's almost a black and white depiction in which you can, there's various settings, but in their instance and the video that they showed me, and having operated FLIR systems myself, they had it set in a white hot, meaning objects that are cold appear to be dark, or in the black to gray scale, and then objects with heat, a heat signature, they are lighter in color, up to just a very glaring white light for the hottest objects.
And you viewed that video?
I did.
And was that near in time to when all of this occurred?
The actual viewing of the video?
Yes.
No, it was I believe the next day when I was assigned to get that FLIR video.
Okay. And going back to your first involvement in this case, you indicated that you went to the actual scene of the shooting.
I did.
And that at that point you received a briefing.
Yes, it was actually, I believe it was in a library that was kind of adjacent to where that road was where the shooting occurred.
Okay. And was there rescue people still on scene at that time?
I don't remember who all was on scene. I was directed to go to the briefing, so that's kind of what I was focused on. I don't remember who was there.
Okay. And so you said that it was dark, but you don't know how long in time it was there after the shooting?
I do not know.
Okay. Let's see. So before we took the break, I believe that you had gone to locate the Durango.
That's correct.
And then what did you do from there?
Once we located that vehicle, I took photographs of the outside of it, verified the vehicle identification number, that it corresponded with the plate that I was seeing, the 331 RAT. Once I was told that it was the same vehicle by VIN and by license plate, sealed that vehicle and it was towed. I followed that tow truck to the state police office, and that vehicle was unloaded into our secure garage bay, and at that point that ended my involvement.
Okay, ma'am, just a minute. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Morning, officer.
Good morning, sir.
All right, so I guess let's work backwards. How long after the suspects were taken into custody, the three individuals were taken into custody, did you review this heat-seeking video? Tell me again what it's called.
It's called a FLIR video, forward-looking infrared.
So it's a camera on the front of the helicopter
That is correct.
that senses heat sources. Or
Well, it takes a video in the FLIR mode. It is able to discern between hot and cold objects.
okay, and how long after these individuals from the Apollo were taken into custody did you review this video?
I couldn't begin to guess, but it was a couple of hours later.
Okay, all right. And were you allowed, I mean, did you have the opportunity to look at the whole video, the entire video?
Once I picked it up, there were two different segments, I believe. One was a very long segment, and then the last one was a very short segment, which was kind of an overall view of the second gas station there off of Rio Bravo.
And you actually, along with the store clerk, saw the pistol on the ground, correct?
I saw it independently of her,
Okay.
but when I interviewed her, she did indicate that, yes.
I see, okay. And so when you're looking at this FLIR video, FLIR, F-L-E?
FLIR?
F-L-I-R.
Yes.
When you're looking at the FLIR video, are you able to see specifically where, which window this heat source comes out of, or more generally, the side of the vehicle that the fire comes out of?
Without seeing the video, I don't remember, but I remember thinking and documenting that when I observed the video, that it had come out the front passenger window,
Okay.
but as far as the video itself, I don't remember.
Okay. And so without seeing the video, you're just going on what you remember 18 months ago?
What I documented in my
What you
report.
documented 18 months ago. And is the video that clear that you could see the specific either trajectory or the source, and you can see it coming from the car?
There's a considerable difference between, that's why I said that there was a significant heat source,
Okay.
because that object that came from the vehicle was considerably hotter or more white in color compared to the vehicle, which that opening was showing pretty dark. It was a very less heat source, if that makes sense.
I see. And previously you testified that that at one point in time at one point in time during your not pursuit but your observation of this Impala, you watched someone exit the driver's side or the driver's door, and then return back into the car, get into another door, and then the car sped away, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you see, did more than one door open, or did the driver's side door open, someone get out, and then the car take off?
I only saw the driver's door open, and then that person got into a different door, but I did not see anyone else exit the vehicle.
And were you able to make any observations regarding the gender of the person who exited the driver's door?
I could not. They were a considerable distance away. It was dark, and the running lights were on, but that's all that I can remember of that.
Okay. All right. Let me show you a couple of photographs, if you will. This has previously been marked as States 288. Can you identify this individual?
I believe that was once we did the stop and took people into custody. I believe it might be. I don't know. It might have been the driver, but I don't remember.
All right. Is this photograph consistent with who you believe the driver to have been?
I don't remember clothing. That's why I said I was unsure what they were wearing, but I think that was the driver.
All right. And you previously indicated that you thought the driver was a man, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then if I was to tell you that this person's name is Michelle Candelaria, does that ring any bells?
It does not. I didn't have direct contact with any of them or speak to any of them.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 289, and it's a close-up. Does that look like the close-up of the same person I just showed you?
It does.
Okay. And without being certain, you think this is the driver?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. And then I'm going to show you a couple of more photographs that have been previously marked as States 286. Oops. Recognize that lady?
Not really, no.
Okay. You don't recognize her as one of the people that was taken out of the car?
Again, my focus stayed on the vehicle and giving those commands. I didn't have any contact with them, any face-to-face actual interaction. So remembering who was who, I don't remember very well, no.
I got you. So who was where in the vehicle is somewhat misty to you, right?
With the exception of the front passenger, because that looked like the photo that I had been provided during the briefing that depicted Andrew Romero. And then he was the very last one, so I had more time to actually look at, as I was watching the actions inside the vehicle. I had more time to focus on him in the overall picture of time. The rear passenger is the one that I know the absolute least, because it was darker in the back of the vehicle.
And that's a close-up of this has previously been marked as States 287. Here's a close-up of the full body shot of the person I just showed you. And that photograph doesn't ring a bell?
Other than, no, it does not.
Okay. But based on your recollection, in your mind, Andrew Romero was in the front passenger, at least when the car came to a stop and the occupants were taken down or gotten out of the car, right?
When they were taken into custody, called out of the vehicle, yes, he was in the front passenger seat.
And so from the moment you activated your emergency equipment to make this traffic stop, to activate your emergency equipment to effectuate a felony stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
There didn't appear to be any shifting of drivers and passengers inside the vehicle?
Didn't appear to be.
Okay. And so from the moment you hit your emergency equipment until the end of what you've described as the speeding up and the running away and the pulling away and the jumping over the medians, there didn't appear to be people changing positions within the car?
Didn't appear to be, no.
So Andrew Romero never appeared to be driving the vehicle as it perhaps tried to elude you?
No, I never saw him in the driver's seat.
Okay, very good. Now, the Durango, and this may be a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. When you came upon the Durango, that street is just a residential street in Rio Rancho, right?
It is.
Looks like a cul-de-sac, maybe a relatively new cul-de-sac, not a lot of trees and stuff. But
No, it's not a cul-de-sac. The photo is kind of deceiving.
Okay.
The road actually curves around to the left
Okay.
and then continues on into more residential area.
But it's just a typical residential neighborhood for Rio Rancho, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And from the vantage point that I can see, and I think this is correct, the car was just parked along the curb on the street, right?
That's correct.
So it wasn't pulled into a driveway or obscured in any way, right? If you're driving on that street, you see the Durango, correct?
Once we got down into the residential areas and we were able to find it, yes.
Okay. And what I'm getting at is there didn't attempt to be, other than pulling off to the curb or pulling to the curb in a residential neighborhood, there didn't appear to have been any attempts to conceal.
Objection. Speculation.
In your experience, the vehicle didn't appear to have been concealed, right?
It was facing towards the main entrance area of that residential area and parked on the opposite side of the road. It didn't appear to be concealed, but it was facing away so that you could not read the plate unless you actually went past it and came back to that vehicle.
I got you. And when you rolled up on this vehicle, nothing had been done to the license plate to obscure the license plate, correct?
That's correct.
Like no trash can had been put behind the license plate, or it wasn't parked up next against a tree or a mailbox or something to shade the license plate, right?
That's correct.
You have more here? Officer, again, a silly question, but when on that flat video, you tell us you see the gun coming out of the front passenger, right?
On the FLIR video?
Yeah, FLIR video. What is it, flick?
I'm not sure what you said.
Something not right. We'll just call it the video.
Yes.
On the video, you can see your testimony is you can see the gun coming out of the front passenger window, right?
As the car was coming around that bend, you could see the heat source. I can't say what it was at that point. And the video, you can't tell what it was. But there was a significant heat source that came out of the front right side of that vehicle.
But the silly question is, you don't know who threw the gun, right?
I didn't see that.
You don't know who threw the heat source.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Pass this.
So whenever you saw the people switching places in the vehicle, how soon before the apprehension was that?
That was a considerable amount of time. That was in the residential area before they got onto I-40 and then I-25 and then down onto Rio Bravo. If I had to guess an amount of time, I would say 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. And the person that you saw exit the Shell gas station and get into the front passenger seat, was that the same person that you saw exit at the apprehension from the front passenger seat?
It was.
Okay. And the FLIR video that you've been talking about, did you create that video?
I did not.
And were you the one in the helicopter running that video?
I was not.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. May you be released from the subpoena?
By the state, Your Honor, yes.
By the defense as well.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
You may call next.
The state calls Detective Diane Dossel.
Okay, officer, before you take the stand, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the penalty of law?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, take a seat.
Morning.
Hello.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first and last name for the court?
Sure. My name is Diane Dosal. It is D-O-S-A-L. I'm with the Albuquerque Police Department as a sergeant in the field.
And how long have you been with APD?
10 years.
And how long have you been a sergeant?
1 year.
Prior to that, what was your assignment with APD?
I was a detective with the Armed Robbery Unit in the Violent Crime Section for Albuquerque Police.
And as part of that job, what were some of your duties?
To investigate all robberies, commercial robberies, carjackings, purse snatchings, robberies to individuals, as well as assist homicide with secondary as another resource.
Okay. And on May 25th of 2015, were you made aware of that type of robbery, a robbery that you would investigate?
Yes.
And where did that occur?
At the Taco Bell on Gibson.
And did you investigate that robbery?
I did.
What did you do as part of that investigation?
When I learned about the robbery itself, I contacted the business for video and attempted to see if I could meet with an employee to obtain that video. They were able to provide it with me later on.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 306. Did you view that video?
Yes.
And does this appear to be from that video?
Yes.
And can you tell us what we're looking at here?
So in the report that I received from Officer Trujillo, the employee had stated that...
Without saying exactly what the employer said, can you tell us what you believe happened?
There was an individual that came into the business, appeared to purchase an item, and pulled out a handgun, then robbed the location and left the area.
Okay, so based on this photo, though, do you know what portion of that we're looking at?
So we have the male offender outside of the business, and then the suspect vehicle.
Okay. And I'm now showing you State's Exhibit 307. Is this from that same video?
Yes.
And what are we looking at here?
The same offender with the handgun at the counter, and the suspect vehicle you can see in the background.
Okay. This is State's 308. Is this from that same video?
Yes, and so that's just another view of the many cameras that they have on site, and the offenders leaving from inside the location back out to the suspect vehicle.
And the suspect vehicle, can you tell what it is from this video?
A Dodge Durango.
And at this point, were you able to make any determination about this robbery, who a suspect might have been?
Yes.
And from May 26th, about 13 to 14 hours later, were you made aware of another robbery?
Yes.
And where was that one at?
At the Giant gas station at 924 Rio Grande in Albuquerque.
And what did you do to investigate that robbery?
I found out about that after it had already occurred. So the officer that responded, Officer Brett Garcia, had obtained video, actually right then and there from the manager. So it was then transferred to me.
What did you do with that video?
I viewed it at a later point, but I was able to see it after that night.
Okay. And I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 309. Does this appear to be from that video?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are we looking at here?
This is the offender going into the giant gas station off of one of the exit doors and entering inside.
Next, we're going to the State's Exhibit 310. From the same video? What are we looking at here?
Same video, different camera view with the employee who was already at the register and the offender.
And are you able to tell what he has in his hand?
Yes, he's holding a handgun in his right hand.
Okay, and where is this at? What Shell gas station?
It's a Giant, I believe, and it's off of Rio Grande near the interstate of I-40.
And did we already establish that this was May 26th?
Yes.
This is State's Exhibit 310.
So-
And is this from the same video?
Yeah, same camera view from last picture, the offender making statements to the employee, his demands.
We're going to State's 312. Same video?
Yes.
And what are we seeing here?
So different camera view, the offender's leaving. At this point we have a different image of what he's wearing, and then the suspect vehicle is waiting right outside of the gas station.
Can you describe what the offender is wearing in this video?
I believe it's denim shorts, white and black tennis shoes, a blue jacket that's Nike, and a white undershirt.
This is State's 313. And is this from the same Shell gas station?
Yes, it's the offender getting into the passenger side of the suspect vehicle, which is silver in color.
Okay, into the passenger side. Which seat exactly is he getting into?
The front passenger.
And through your investigation, were you able to determine if the people in both of these videos was the same person?
Yes.
And who was that person?
Objection, foundation.
Your Honor, may we approach? Thank you, Your Honor. Who was the offender?
Andrew Romero.
And Your Honor, may I have just a moment? I'll pass the witness.
No question, Judge.
May this also be released from subpoena?
From the state, yes, Your Honor.
May we release that?
Thank you.
Next witness.
The state calls Russell Carter.
Please swear you in before you take the stand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole
I do.
truth?
Good morning.
Morning.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first and last name for the court?
My name is Russ Carter, or Russell Carter. My first name is Russell, and my last name is Carter, Carter.
And where are you employed?
I'm a detective with the Albuquerque Police Department.
And how long have you been with
for 19 years.
And what is your assignment with the Albuquerque Police Department?
I'm a detective with the Investigative Support Unit in the Special Investigations Division.
Okay. And was that also your assignment in May of last year?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
And as part of the Special Investigations Unit, what do you do?
We get called out to certain types of crimes, homicide investigations, habitual offenders, robbery offenders, violent crime offenders, and we investigate those types of crimes.
And how did you become involved in the case that we're here to discuss today?
We were called, our unit was activated in reference to an officer being shot in the Rio Rio Rancho.
Okay. And what specifically were you called to do?
We were called to attempt to locate the offender or offenders in this, or the vehicle. Information was provided to us that an officer had been shot and the offender and vehicle that the offender was in was still outstanding. So our specific duties were to attempt to locate the vehicle or offenders.
Were you aware of a suspect at that time?
Not at the time, no ma'am, I was not.
And were you charged with trying to find out who the suspect was?
No, I was not.
Okay. So what did you do with the information regarding the vehicle?
Information was provided to us, I believe from someone who was at the scene, I don't recall specifically who, to look for a silver Dodge Durango. Information was also provided that that this vehicle may be at a hotel or motel in the Albuquerque area. So we were activated to see if we could actually locate that vehicle at any, not really a specific motel or hotel, but just to start checking hotels and motels in the area.
So where did you go?
I originally started with going to the Sandia Casino to check the parking lot of the Sandia Casino, and then I systematically checked the hotels and motels along the I-25 corridor, starting from north of Alameda, working my way south towards the interstate, the I-40, I-25 interchange.
What, if anything, did you find?
Wasn't able to locate any, or the vehicle that we were looking for, the specific Dodge Durango. So at that point, we just regrouped and kind of came up with a plan on which other direction we were going to go to at that point.
And what was that plan?
Information was provided about that time when I had finished looking at all the hotels in that area, to go concentrate our efforts in the area of Pennsylvania and Trumbull. It wasn't super clear on exactly what we were looking for, either the vehicle or a suspect that had been identified by someone else at the scene at that time, to look for a male subject named Andrew Romero, or the vehicle.
I'm sorry. How long after the shooting were you provided that information?
I don't know that. I don't know.
Now, you're with Albuquerque Police Department. Were there other agencies involved in this search?
There were other agencies. As far as contacting with them and what their assignments were, I don't have any idea what they were doing.
So once you got to the area, did you say Trumbull and Pennsylvania?
Yes, ma'am.
Once you got to that area, what did you do?
Our team set up just static surveillance in the area. We still weren't exactly sure the content or exactly what we were looking for, whether the vehicle or Mr. Romero himself. So surveillance was established in that area.
You said static surveillance. What is that?
Static surveillance is basically surveillance either on foot or in a vehicle, your police vehicle. It's an unmarked vehicle. We basically just sit in the area and observe actions of everything that's going on in the area.
Okay, so let's back up just a little bit. You said that you received this information, that it had the information regarding Andrew Romero. Was it the same day as the shooting?
Same night, yes.
Same night?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you know approximately what time you received that information?
I don't. I don't. It was after the shooting, and after I had checked the hotels. If I had to guess an approximate amount of time that passed, probably a couple of hours.
And you said that you were conducting static surveillance. Explain to us what that was, and then what happened.
Information was provided over the radio from a team member that a vehicle had circled around the same area where were conducting surveillance a few times, which heightened our attention on the vehicle. It was described as a light-colored Chevy Impala. And it heightened our awareness, like I mentioned, because of it's nighttime, and then we see the same vehicle circling the block where we're all sitting. So it just drew the detective's attention at the time.
Okay. What did you do with that information?
We just stayed in place where we were at the time. It wasn't until a detective mentioned that he saw a male subject come from somewhere in the area of Trumbull and Pennsylvania and enter the vehicle that we had suspicions about. At that point, once the subject, they said a subject, I believe I mentioned male, they said a subject entered that vehicle. The vehicle traveled northbound on Wisconsin. Because of the fact that we're in that area and the vehicle had done several loops through the neighborhood, the decision was made to conduct mobile surveillance now, and mobile surveillance is nothing other than following the vehicle. So we began conducting mobile surveillance on the vehicle, which was traveling northbound on Wisconsin.
What all did you observe the vehicle to do?
You know, ma'am, at that point, I hadn't observed. I was just listening to what was going on the radio. I wasn't able to actually visually see the vehicle due to trying to catch up to the vehicle speed, location, my speed and location, where I was starting from. It was being reported over the radio that the vehicle is traveling now northbound on Wisconsin from Chico with the lights off. It's obviously something else, another clue that we would kind of want to pay more attention to this vehicle. It's nighttime, it's dark. Most people are going to drive with their headlights on. This vehicle is traveling northbound in a residential neighborhood at a high rate of speed with no lights on.
Where were you at that time?
I'm sorry?
Where were you at that time?
I'm still trying to catch up to the vehicle.
Okay. And then
So mobile surveillance was conducted on the vehicle as it traveled through various parts of the city. Off and on, I would observe the vehicle. I don't recall the specific locations. I do recall that the passenger side, I believe, it was the driver's side rear window had plastic or something covering the rear window, which was distinct and made the vehicle stick out a little bit more versus it having glass on all four doors or windows. So mobile surveillance was conducted as the vehicle traveled westbound on I-40. At one point, I was way out of the surveillance and I had to conduct a loop to turn around and get back, but it was being reported over the radio that it exited at Rio Grande and was at the Shell gas station, which is just south of Rio Grande Boulevard, or just south of I-40 on Rio Grande.
And did you observe the vehicle at the Shell station?
No, I did not.
And what information was coming through at that time?
Information was being provided by other detectives conducting the surveillance from our team that the vehicle was parked on one side of the gas station. I don't recall if it was the west side or the east side of the gas station. And then a subject exited, and then the vehicle moved to the other side of the gas station. The subject who exited the vehicle went inside the grocery area, the convenience store area, away from the pumps. As the vehicle moved, at that time, I tried to set up a position in order to coordinate following the vehicle once it left.
Were you at the Shell then at this time?
Was I at the Shell?
Yes.
No, ma'am, I was
How
not.
far away from the Shell were you?
I believe I positioned myself north of I-40 at a gas station which is just north in order to better assist in following it once it left.
So what information came in next?
Additional information was coming in that the vehicle is now, the male subject exited the grocery store convenience portion of it.
A grocery store?
Well, it's the convenience portion, the shopping portion where they have inside the gas station.
Okay.
That a subject exited, entered the vehicle again, and now the vehicle is leaving, again driving with its headlights off. At that point, surveillance was continued, mobile surveillance was continued. The vehicle was, I observed it now traveling eastbound on I-40. The decision was made by someone, a supervisor, that we were going to try to conduct a stop of the vehicle because we were now obtaining information that whoever entered that store and was observed.
Your Honor, it goes to what occurred next and what this officer did.
They just decided, so based on information they made, it's not sustained.
So where did the vehicle go from there?
So as it was traveling on westbound I-40, we obtained information via the radio that a robbery had just occurred.
Judge, objection, asked to strike, witness to the...
I'm gonna ask the jury to disregard that information.
And where did the Impala go from there?
It continued traveling westbound on I-40.
And
I'm sorry, eastbound.
eastbound, and where were you?
I was behind it, a fair distance behind it, traveling in the same direction.
Okay, and you said that you had been told that there was going to be a stop.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who was going to complete that stop?
We were uncertain. Because we're in unmarked vehicles, we were trying to get a marked vehicle into the area, whether it was Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department, State Police, or with Albuquerque Police Department. As the vehicle continued to travel eastbound, it eventually made it to the intersection of the Big I, which was with I-25 southbound. The vehicle started to travel southbound on I-25, at which point I believe it was a state police officer that attempted to conduct a traffic stop on the vehicle.
Were you actually observing this at the time?
I was a significant distance behind it. I could see the lights as the vehicles were traveling south. Actually, once they initiated their emergency equipment to conduct that traffic stop, I was probably 300 or 400 yards behind it.
Okay, and did you observe the vehicle to stop?
The vehicle did not stop. It didn't yield to the emergency equipment. It didn't pull over. It ended up exiting, traveling westbound on Rio Bravo towards Broadway. Now there was multiple agencies and marked vehicles in the area. I noticed several Bernalillo County Sheriff's officers that were in the area in their marked police units. I also noticed State Police had several marked police units in the area, now behind the vehicle pursuing it as it traveled westbound on Rio Bravo.
Several police units. Were lights and sirens going from all around?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do next?
The vehicle turned northbound on Broadway and then made an immediate left turn into the Valero gas station, which is located on the northwest corner of Broadway and Rio Bravo. Once the vehicle entered the parking lot, it was on the north side of the parking lot. I was still coming off of Rio Bravo and noticed that it had pulled into the Valero, so I drove over the median in order to get to the exit that the vehicle actually entered into. Once the vehicle entered the parking lot, traveling west on the north side, it made a U-turn from the north side of the pumps and was now traveling back eastbound in the same parking lot.
Were you directly behind the vehicle at this point?
Not at this point yet. As the vehicle turned and made that eastbound turn, still right next to the gas pumps, an unmarked, I believe it was a Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department lieutenant, that was an unmarked Ford Expedition, I believe, pulled in front of the vehicle, impeding its path of travel. So at that point, in order to prevent the vehicle from being able to go mobile, I pulled around the backside of the vehicle and blocked the rear of the vehicle with my vehicle, preventing it from being able to back up.
What type of vehicle were you in?
I was driving a white Ford F-150 four-door crew cab.
Showing you it's been marked as State's Exhibit 145. Does this show the scene as you are describing it?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
And, Your Honor, maybe the step down.
You may.
Can you come down, please? Can you use my pen and address the jury, and can you point out your vehicle and what you were just stating to us about how the car was blocked in?
Okay, so this is the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department lieutenant's vehicle, the blue-colored Ford Expedition. This is the suspect vehicle, the vehicle that we had been following, and then this is the white Ford crew cab F-150 that I was
Can
driving.
you turn in so that the jury can
Sorry,
hear what you're
I'm
saying?
blind. There's some gas pumps that you cannot see in this area. It's just off this picture that's being depicted. I drove around the gas pumps on that side and then blocked the rear of the vehicle, preventing it from being able to back up.
Okay. And then what did you do from there?
At that point, exited my vehicle and ran around what's off of the picture to the rear of my vehicle, and then back around to this area. Just off of this picture, there were some police vehicles that were over here, and I ran around to the back of those in order to get out of the way of line of fire and to better get behind where all that action and activity was being directed.
And did you take part in that activity? What were you doing?
Yes, I did, actually. So once I was in that position by the marked vehicles, occupants were being ordered out of the vehicle by several people at that scene. We had officers facing, obviously, the suspect vehicle, but there was also some that aren't seen on this photo that are to the left. They're also facing the vehicle. So what I wanted to do is get out of the way. I believe they have already had somebody out of the vehicle at that time. I noticed that there was a male passenger in the front passenger seat. So I began giving commands to that subject once we had the other person out. I ordered that subject to exit the vehicle through the driver's side door, which was remaining open because they had already gotten somebody out. Called that subject. He exited through the driver's side door. I was able to call him back to me, placed him in handcuffs. I asked him what his name was. He identified himself verbally to me as Andrew Romero. I already knew the subject's identity because I had a photograph. I had his name. I also had information about the tattoo that was on the front of his neck. I positively identified this subject as being Andrew Romero, the male that I placed in handcuffs. And I took him back to a marked police vehicle and placed him by that vehicle.
How many people total were in the vehicle?
I recall there being 3.
And other than asking for his name, did you speak to any of the people that came out of the vehicle?
I did not.
And did you transport the defendant from the scene?
No, I did not.
What did you do next?
Once everybody was in custody and the vehicle was secured, I noticed a detective that was closer, or an officer that was closer to the building in the area where the vehicle had made a U-turn. Walked over to that general area, and that's where I noticed that there was a firearm, a handgun, a black handgun, laying on the ground in the area of where the vehicle made a U-turn.
And when you were having the defendant exit the car, did he comply with your commands?
He did.
And can you take us through again exactly how you removed him from the vehicle?
So without approaching the vehicle, we wanted to keep everybody out of the close proximity to that vehicle. Once I was back behind the police vehicles and other marked units, and I verbally yelled to the subject who's in the front passenger seat of the vehicle. I gave him specific commands: keep his hands in the air. I wanted him to move from the passenger seat to the driver's seat and exit the door, keeping his hands visible at all times, as much as possible. I mean, obviously they have to use their hands to support themselves to help get out, but to keep his hands in the air as much as possible. Once he was out of the vehicle, have people turn around, face away from me generally, walk backwards to the sound of my voice, and then at that point, we're able to place him in handcuffs, do a cursory search for any weapons on that person, and then remove them to a more secure area, because we still had someone else that was in the vehicle that we had to deal with getting them out.
And he was able to follow all of your instructions?
Yes, he was.
And Did you receive information about what was on the ground whenever you were retracing the steps of the vehicle?
No, I had not. I walked over in that area. There was I believe, maybe a store employee or someone and an officer or deputy over in that area. So I just walked over there to see if there was anything that I missed that I needed help with. And that's when I visually saw the handgun on the ground.
And did you do anything else with that handgun?
No, I did not.
What's your any other involvement in this case? Did you have any other involvement?
No, I didn't do anything. Once they processed and photographed and documented everything, I was able to remove my vehicle from the scene, and I didn't have any other involvement.
Okay, may I have just a moment? I'll pass the witness charge.
Morning.
All right, so let's talk about the things you observed, okay? Now, I'm not going to ask you what you heard, but the things you observed, okay?
Okay.
All right, so as you're observing this Impala and it's driving without its lights on, you can't tell who the driver is, right? You don't make an identification of the driver, the passenger, or even whoever. You don't even know how many people in the vehicle, right?
No, I do not.
Okay. And initially, you observed the vehicle somewhere around Trumbull in Pennsylvania. Is that right?
Yes.
Driving without the lights on, and that's what alerted you to this, not necessarily suspicious behavior, but you alerted to the vehicle, right?
Yes.
And then you see someone run and get in the vehicle, and you describe that person as potentially a male, right? Or do you even know?
I did not observe that, so that was what was being reported to me.
Okay, I got that wrong. So over the radio, this is what you hear, and then you continue to follow the vehicle, right?
Yes.
Vehicle gets on I-40 going westbound
Yes.
and exits on Rio Grande.
After it had passed Rio Grande, it actually went past Rio Grande and came back, but it did eventually exit on Rio Grande.
Okay. Driving on the interstate without its lights?
No, the vehicle turned the lights back on. Once it, go ahead.
Gets on the highway, has enough sense to drive with light on the highway, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then ultimately gets off on Rio Grande, right?
Correct.
And pulls up to, there's a shell there right off Rio Grande, right?
Yes.
And that's on the north side of the interstate?
South side.
South side. So you have to go under the underpass at Rio Grande and the south side of Rio Grande, right? I mean, south side of the highway.
Yes, it's on the south side of Interstate 40.
East side on Rio Grande, right?
Correct.
Okay. I take my kids to the zoo over there. I know where that show is. All right. So a vehicle pulls up and a male subject gets out, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you actually see the male subject get out, or is this something you heard on the radio?
That's what I heard over the radio.
Okay. And then at this point in time, you still haven't made any sort of identifications of drivers or passengers. You just understand that a male gets down and goes into the shell, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the vehicle moves to the other side of the shell, right?
That's what was reported, yes.
Okay. You still haven't made any observations, but this
No.
is what you're hearing on the radio.
Correct.
All right. And then you know this to be the Impala that is a subject vehicle of maybe this investigation or this follow, right?
Correct.
Okay. You understand then that the male comes back out and gets back in the Impala, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you understand that the male subject is not driving the Impala, right?
I don't know that.
Okay. Is this? Do you ever do you ever gain any information without telling you what you hear that the male is the driver of the vehicle?
No, I have no idea who's driving.
You have no idea. Okay. All right. So then, vehicle Impala, the silver Impala, gets back on the highway on I-40 going eastbound, right?
Correct.
And then begins traveling southbound on I-25, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how many miles, and roughly, and if you don't know, just tell me, but do you know roughly how many miles it was from the place where the felony stop was initiated lights come on, decision to stop the vehicle is made, and then ultimately where the vehicle came to rest somewhere off in the parking lot of the other gas station off Broadway. You know how far that is?
From, I'm a little confused, from the time the traffic stop was initiated to the time it was where they stopped.
Right.
Distance-wise, I would say half a mile at most.
Is it more like about 5.8 miles? From the location that the traffic, that the traffic stop is, that the lights and sirens come on.
Yes.
Right? That's somewhere near Gibson, right? If I'm to understand.
Where the initial traffic stop was initiated on Interstate 25 southbound.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you exactly where it was initiated from. I wasn't the officer that was doing it, so I don't know.
Well, where did you first see the lights and sirens come on?
Once, when I was traveling southbound on I-25, probably past the lead coal exit, there was considerable distance ahead of me when they were initiating the traffic stop.
It's certainly more than a half mile from the lead coal exit to Rio Grande and, to Rio Bravo and Broadway, right?
Yes, from there it was, but that was my position. That wasn't where. So to answer your question, I'm not sure when they initiated their equipment to stop the vehicle. From where I observed most of the action going on, from Interstate 25 to the Valero gas station is approximately half a mile is what I would say.
Oh, okay. So you just don't know?
No,
how
I haven't.
far
I don't know.
The group moved, the suspect Impala and the officers with lights and sirens, you don't know how far they traveled, right?
No, I do not.
Okay. Based on what you observed, the police officers who were traveling behind the Impala, who were following the Impala, had their lights on, right?
Yes,
Had their sirens on?
I assume so. I couldn't hear.
How fast were the vehicles traveling?
I have no idea.
Did it appear to be in excess of posted speed limit?
I don't know.
Don't know. Okay. Did the suspect vehicle appear to be obeying the command to stop, or did they seem to be?
No,
Didn't really appear to be obeying the traffic commands, right?
the command to stop.
Right. Lights and
No,
sirens
they
come
didn't
on.
pull. They didn't initially pull over immediately.
All right. And they didn't pull over when they exited on Rio Bravo either, correct?
No, they did not.
Or when they turned on the Broadway, correct?
No.
Okay. Now, you said that you were able to identify ultimately Andrew Romero as being the passenger in the Impala, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever observe the driver and the passenger switch seats?
No, I did not.
Okay. Do you recall when you were able to identify the driver as either a male or a female?
I don't believe I ever saw the driver.
Okay. So were you able to did you ever see this person get out of the car?
I don't recall ever seeing that person.
Now, you notice you testified previously that you were able to identify Romero because he had a distinct neck tattoo, right?
Correct.
Okay. And what I'm showing the officer and the jury is previously been identified as states 280, 289. Does that individual appear to have a distinct neck tattoo?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Looks like maybe, based on your training experience, what's that a tattoo of?
I have no idea.
Kind of look like brass knuckles, right?
If you say so.
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, I don't know. This is a detective who's been with the police force 18 years.
It's
Can you?
asked and answered.
You can ask and answer it.
Okay. So you don't know what that is?
The picture's not very clear for one, and no, I can't tell you what that is.
All right. And you didn't make an ID of the driver as either male or female?
No, I did not.
That was somebody else, maybe? You don't
I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Ed, want me? Officer, on your direct testimony, I think you said that you observed New Mexico State Police attempt to stop the vehicle as the vehicle, the Impala, merged from I-40 onto I-25. Do you remember making that statement?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what you observed, right?
Yes.
And the vehicle didn't yield when the New Mexico State Police attempted to stop the vehicle at I-25 and I-40, right?
At I-25 and I-40?
I-40, I-49.
at the interchange? No, they didn't initiate the traffic stop till way south on I-25.
Okay. So if you testify to something different on direct examination,
Objection, Your Honor, it's asked and answered.
well, I don't know what the answer is, Your Honor. He said one thing and now he's saying another. When did you observe New Mexico State Police initiate a traffic stop on the Silver Impala?
I'm not exactly sure what the location was when they initiated it. I said I saw them with their lights on, traveling southbound on Interstate 25.
Pass it.
We have no further questions, Your Honor.
May this officer be released from subpoena?
Yes, from the state, Your Honor.
You then, Ms. Carter, you intend to call this officer back?
No, sir.
Be released. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a 10, 15 minute break.
All right.